Well, folks, thank you for tuning into this Habs Tonight exclusive, if you will. Joined by Ron MacLean. Thanks for jumping on for a few minutes with us today, Ron.
Real pleasure, Andrew. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you again, too. Well, let's start with what's happening this weekend right here in Niagara. The gateway to Niagara is Grimsby, Ontario. So we've got you guys, Ron and Tara, coming in to show off Rogers hometown hockey. So just tell us about, maybe for the viewers that haven't attended, just tell them what it's all about.
Well, it's a neat family occasion, Andrew. There's a festival that runs 11 to 5, both Saturday, Sunday. And to get your free ticket, you have to go onto the hometownhockey.ca website. And that's just a way for us to filter during the pandemic. You have to be double vaxxed. And so we have certain numbers are allowed in at, say, 11 a.m. And then again, depending on the crowds, we kind of control it that way to keep it safe and obviously health and safety first. But it's really fun. There's live music, guests. Mike Krushelnicki's a dear buddy, and he's coming down to help us out and do some autograph signing and spread his charm. And he's got lots of that. He was on Battle of the Blades, if you can believe it. Not only a great NHL career, and then the show itself is Monday night. And Kevin Bieksa, we have a third host, as you know, for this particular edition of Rogers Hometown Hockey. Kevin's a Grimsby boy, and he and Katie, his wife, and the family are going to be part of it for us. She's an incredible author. I don't know if you knew that. Published author. Newport Jane was her first book, and her second, My Sister Cedar's, coming out. So Kevin, as you can tell from his work on Hockey Night in Canada, is he's got that. There's a little bit of literature in that crazy physical and scientific mind of his.
Yes, also another former teammate of our founder Dale Weiss. So we certainly appreciate that, and love to have Kevin on someday. And of course, I was going to mention he is a Grimsby native, so how appropriate it is that he's going to be there. So, and you mentioned three-time Stanley Cup winner Mike Krushelnicki also won a Stanley Cup as an assistant coach with the Detroit Red Wings, signing autographs, all kinds of stuff going on. We got ball hockey, all kinds of events for kids, and you guys have really made some folks happy, obviously getting the chance to do this show again. And it will be here at the Grimsby Peach King Center right in Grimsby, and still plenty of free tickets available too, Ron.
Well, yeah, I think, we've had great crowds, Andrew, much to my surprise, actually. I was thinking, we were in Ayr for our first stop, and the population is roughly 4,500, and we had 5,000 people at the festival in one day. And even the last two stops, the weather's been a little bit inclement, and we had a great turnout for the show last Monday night. In Tillsonburg, it was below zero. So, yeah, I think we're enjoying gatherings. And definitely the spirit of being a hockey community. And I didn't know this until prepping for Grimsby, that there was such a rich history with the Montreal Canadiens. I'm sure you've talked about it, but the fact they used to hold training camp, there was only two artificial ice surfaces in Ontario. Obviously Toronto, where the Leafs played, and the other was Grimsby, where they built a beautiful rink in the 20s. And the Montreal Canadiens took advantage of that and brought their team here twice to train in 22 and 23, and ended up winning the cup in 23-24 season. So Grimsby took credit for that, and so they should.
I'm a Niagara native, so I I am in Niagara Falls, but as I mentioned, we'll take it. It's still the Niagara region, so certainly Habs fans will appreciate that tidbit of info as well. And yes, let's take a look at that jersey you're rocking today, Ron. The Canada Games coming to Niagara also next year.
Good friend of ours from Red Deer, Alberta. So Carrie and I are both Red Deerians. Barry Wright was in charge of Parks and Rec in Red Deer, and he's now in charge of the Canada Games coming up in August in Niagara, all over the region, of course. And another good friend, John D'Souza's in Beamsville. He's got a winery, which is now part of a bigger conglomerate. I can't keep track of how much money John's making, but John and Mary are backers of the Canada Games, and Mary's actually involved in the committee. So wishing them all the luck. Because of COVID, it's the 2021 games conducted in August of 2022, but there's nothing like that Canada Games. Like Nick Suzuki, Montreal Canadien, he was discovered at a Canada Games in Prince George in 2015. He was a last-minute add because of an injury. Last-minute add to the team Ontario that played in BC at the Canada Games. He scored the decisive winning goal, 3-2 win. He got the winner. And Drew Bannister was coaching Team Ontario and was assistant coach at the time with the Owen Sound Attack, and said, "You got to get this kid. He's clutch." And that's how he got discovered, and the rest is history. So, Canada Games are very special, and wish the Niagara region all the best with them.
Well, I'll claim ignorance on that one because I did not know that. So that's a really fun tidbit about Nick Suzuki. And then I had the chance to I mentioned this a million times on our channel to our viewers, but had the chance to interview him while he was with Owen Sound right here in Niagara, and he's becoming something special for that team, and that's for sure.
Did you see Sean Dursey got his first NHL goal? So Toronto played
Yes.
Los Angeles. He's a LA King now. He was drafted by the Leafs, but traded in the Jake Muzzin deal. And Sean Dursey and Nick Suzuki are very good friends. They played together in Owen Sound. They played together in Guelph when the Storm went to the Memorial Cup. And it was there that Tara Sloan interviewed Sean Dursey and was just saying, Sean, you've got great resilience. You've not, been drafted every time or every step of the way. You've had some setbacks along the way, and you're still finding a way. And he said, Tara, I don't try to prove people wrong. I try to prove the people who believe in me right. It was a really positive spin on things that Sean Dursey had. And even again, he's 23 years old, finally got his first shot at the NHL. And in his first game, he got a goal and an assist. He's a right-hand shooting defenseman. So a real good puck mover. And that was just so great to see. And I'm sure Nick Suzuki was as happy as anybody for him.
Oh, I'm sure there was a text message sent real quick.
Yeah.
And I think Steve Dangle even gave him a shout out too during that game where Toronto, of course, did win by a big margin, but it was appropriate that he scored against the Leafs. That was kind of neat.
Can we talk? That's a lot of Leafs on a Montreal-based podcast or whatever we are. Yeah, show.
Yeah, we try to be pretty neutral. We had Steve on, bless his soul, right after the Canadiens, eliminated the Leafs. So to be honest,
good for him.
We try to be neutral, and Steve did us a favor by coming on, regardless of his feelings.
I remember Andrew going down into Welland. The first time I refereed, they were called the Welland Flames. This is going way back, and who was Christophe Oliva? That was their big player. He wore number 88 like Eric Lindros, and he was almost right from Poland and playing in Welland. But everybody at the rink was Montreal crazy. It was a very francophone community, and they loved the Montreal Canadiens. And I just remember that, and I remember Christophe Oliva, who ended up kind of being an enforcer in his time in the NHL in 2004 when the Calgary Flames went to the final against Tampa, and famously Jerome McGinley fought Le Cavalier. But a really key member of the team was Christophe Oliva. And you talk to anybody down in Welland, there's a lot of great players come out of Welland, Paul Bissonnette and Nathan Horton and all these guys, and they'll talk about Oliva as one of the greatest players that ever played in the region. So it's a fond memory of Welland and Montreal Canadiens support.
Yeah, well, this will be your third stop in the Niagara region, actually. Welland was one of them, Niagara Falls the other. This will be the first time I'll be seeing you guys in person, so I will be seeing you guys Monday. I'll be attending the festival. I talked with Tara, and I mean, COVID restrictions are pretty tight right now, so I would love to come meet you guys up close, but we'll probably have to keep our distance. So, either way, it will be nice to see you in person.
Yeah, we can't allow people on the truck, right? Everybody has to be rapid tested, and it's just, the restrictions are what they are. And nobody's going to balk at that, but it's not been fun. That's the one thing that I found a little bit hollow is we're kind of like in a fishbowl there in the mobile studio, and everyone's good enough to turn out, and we're not supposed to interact. It's just a health and safety measure. We don't want to spread it. It's funny, Andrew. We got through all those playoffs. We did 2 Stanley Cups in 280 days, and they went into the bubble and not a single case. But as you know, San Jose, Ottawa, and the New York Islanders have been hit hard. So everybody's having to try to remember to be careful. It's not easy, right? We're all kind of feeling like we're on the back end of it, and we want to just go back to normal. But yeah, that's been the one drag. Anyway, we'll see. We just have to step outside, and if it's snowing, dress up.
That's right. Well, it was snowing a few minutes ago here in Niagara.
Yeah, I saw that.
But either way, I think the point is that we're happy and grateful to have something to look forward to. Whether we have to keep our distance, we have hockey back, and we have you guys there.
Yeah, no, it's a really lovely show. Who thought 8 years ago it was a fledgling idea? It was kind of the child of what we call Scotiabank Hockey Day in Canada, which is a once a year that hockey does, Hockey Night in Canada. And then when it started, the first show we did was London, Ontario. And we ran a story on a young goaltender, Ian Jenkins, who had perished in a car crash. Stephen Brunt did the story. And I remember we had a really good gathering there that day, and you could have heard a pin drop. People were really dialed into a grassroots story, a story that everybody could relate to of a family rocked by a dream shattered. It was a heavy story, but it was just, I've said this, Andrew, a lot lately, that all my life, I'm 61 years old. You kind of think hockey, it's a kind of a trivial pursuit. But when I experienced the tragedy at Humboldt and went out and met the president of the organization, Kevin Geringer, and I heard stories everywhere about the coach, Darcy Hogan, and about the captain, Logan Schatz. And I met the players who'd survived and their families, and I realized, oh gosh, whatever I thought, about this being trivial, I was wrong. It's actually a very worthwhile pursuit to have a life around community and hockey, because these teams are, Peach Kings are 100 years old, right? It's incredible what it takes to have that. And like they have a volunteer, Marilyn Owen, I haven't met, but she's written books now about the Peach Kings, and that kind of dedication is it's everywhere in the country. And yeah, there's the rink, I refereed there once. I remember Kilty Bees, I think they were junior C, so it wasn't the Kilty Bees, but whoever they were playing, the coach kicked the bench right next to the referee's room. He went in to tear a strip off his players, and he kicked the bench that the players sit on that was right into a cinder block wall, bolted. He kicked it right off the cinder block wall. I thought, oh boy, get your rule book, Ron. You're going to have to figure out how to do a gross misconduct or a game misconduct pretty soon. But yeah, fond memories. And I did an event down there with Gordie Howe, believe it or not. So yeah, when I see that rink, it's neat.
Well, any fond memory is a good one. So I will have to ask this, of course, on behalf of our Montreal Canadiens fans, viewers. Plenty of years covering hockey you have, but what are some of your fondest memories of the Montreal Canadiens, just in general?
Oh boy, I grew up, and I'm sorry to have everybody throw tomatoes at me here, but I was a Jacques Plante fan. So if I could sort of nuance it this way, but I was a Leaf fan. My mother was a huge Montreal Canadiens fan. So that's how it happens in a lot of households. If one is Habs, if you're going to have any fun placing bets and arguing, somebody has to go in another direction. So I did go Toronto as a boy. But I just remember how disappointing Maple Leaf Gardens was when I first visited it. It was kind of dirty. It eventually got cleaned up. Steve Stavros and an ownership group came in, and Cliff Fletcher as general manager. They gave Maple Leaf Gardens a facelift. It was filthy in the Ballard era. It needed to be sandblasted and fixed, and they did fix it eventually. But when I first saw it, it was like, you're kidding me. This is the Shrine. Whereas first time into the Montreal Forum was just like, oh my God, this is the Taj Mahal. And it just gleamed. Every aspect of the Montreal Forum was shiny and bright. And you had all that history of the banners there. And of course, Jean Beliveau's around, and the pocket rocket, Henri Richard, is around. And I mean, there was nothing like it. There's nothing can match a Saturday in Montreal. So that's my first vivid memory. And on my first ever broadcast in there, I interviewed Dick Irvin and Red Fisher, was a famous writer with the Montreal Gazette. And of course, I just introduced them and they went. And it was so great to feel that passion and the ease with which they told stories. I remember the 93 Stanley Cup. That's a very favorite memory. Dick and I closed the show that year talking about Roger Doucette, the famous anthem singer at Montreal. And in the history, All-Star Game was there in 1993. And I remember Mario Lemieux came out. He was going through his Hodgkin's lymphoma. So he was not able to play, but they introduced him in a special ceremony. And that was in Montreal. And I think, you've heard it time and again that any ceremony that Montreal does is just a notch above. So it's a very special place, unbelievable history, and that carries on. Like you feel it with Carey Price. I know he's gone through the ringer here, but that's okay. And of course by admitting his vulnerability, by shedding his armor and taking care of himself, he sets yet another shining example. So they get it right every which way, except for that draft pick this year. Logan Mailloux probably was a mistake. They don't make too many mistakes, but you're allowed. You're only human to sort through things. But Montreal, whenever they do something, they get it right.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, I look back. I mean, I think it was just last year during COVID when they were doing the replays, and they replayed the '93 Cup final, and of which you were the ringside. You were that day's Kyle Bukauskas. At the time.
We actually hosted in a much more humble format, Andrew. I was anchoring and ringside reporting. You didn't have a cast of thousands the way we do nowadays. I remember the Miracle in Manchester. It was John Wells and Harry Neal. And that's it, that you would send two people. or Bob Cole. In that case, it was Bob Cole did the game, and I think Don might have been the analyst, Cherry. But yeah, we by the time I started, we were a crew of 4, which was a big crew. But there was Harry Neal, Don Cherry, myself, and Bob Cole, and that was it. We traveled everywhere and did everything, and it was a really lovely unit.
Well, I have to ask. I just will because I was asked, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to bring it up, but you mentioned Don, so.
Sure, of course.
But you know what? Folks just want to know: do you miss Don? I know you told me you're still in touch.
Well, of course, yeah. It was it's the clumsiest ending, and again, you could tell everyone till you're blue in the face. All it took was Don wanting to, kind of make it go away. It just required an apology, right? But you understand, everybody loves Don for the fact he doesn't back down, and as he says, I did what I did, and needed to do, and you did what you had to do. Me, we are still friends, and he understands. He always said, Ron, you live in the land of Billiken, which is a mythical doll that is the god of how things ought to be. And he was always way more pragmatic or practical, he felt, in his thinking than I was. So he understood that, on my values and ethics, it was important to acknowledge that we'd made a misstep and apologize and move on. But Don was at a stage, I think, in his career that he just felt, it's a good time to go. So, of course, I miss him. We all do. It's like every time there's a situation when you have someone who's been that big a part of your life. Like I look at my shelf, a lot of my books, Andrew, are based on ethics. When you live in this career, you're consistently studying law and ethics and such. And you notice how, there's lots of people who I looked up to whose wisdom I could never use in situations today, for whatever prejudice or bias or societal or systemic, flaw in their thinking. That's where we kind of go as we go along, and I fall into it all the time. I make my own mistakes, based on my own empirical knowledge, and my own experience in life has obviously created, in my eyes, many blind spots. So we're at a crazy time of transformation, and you want to hear, I miss Tom Petty, I miss Don Cherry, I miss a lot of voices that I think would be great to hear every time there's a crisis of ethics.
Well, that's one thing I want to mention just before we let you go here, and that is you and Gord Downie. And
Another guy.
we should mention that at the Grimsby Hometown Hockey Festival, Practically Hip will be playing. So what do you think of that?
Well, you know how much I love Gordon. We all do. I wrote it was too early in my life to write a memoir, but when I was just 50, I wrote a book called Cornered, which was really for my dad. My mom had died, and I wanted my dad to have an account of the story that he would enjoy. And I ended the book with, I don't plan anything, but if I was to plan one thing, it would be to retire and run a little beach bar called The Wherewithal, which is a song by Gord, where he writes, I always loved that guy. He's not on TV anymore. To get out before, he had the wherewithal. And really, it's an attack on vanity. Much of Gord's music is going after pretense or vanity. So I can't wait to hear the Practically Hip. They're on stage Sunday at around 4ish. So that's a set I should be able to catch, and very much looking forward to it.
Excellent. Well, last question I'll have for you before we head off. We wish to speak with your lovely co-host, who's become kind of a mentor and friend of mine as well, and that's Miss Tara Sloan. And we love Tara, and she had a special moment recently where she shared what was on her heart right on Rogers Hometown Hockey, and that meant a lot to her, and I think to a lot of viewers as well.
Oh, absolutely. Tara, I call her the ethical canary, is actually stolen from an ethicist named Margaret Somerville, who taught at McGill. And the idea of an ethical canary is, in the old days, the miners used to take a canary down into the mine in a cage. And the idea was, if there was any poisonous gas in the mine shaft, the canary would die first. And that would be a sign to all the miners to get out. And an ethical canary, the metaphor is that someone has to be able to detect when things are poisoned or toxic. And that's Tara's, again, she's very committed to ethics in her life as a rock and roller. You kind of connect to people, I think of Patti Smith as an example of I could certainly list Annie Lennox, or I would say Deborah Harry. There's Chrissy Hines, powerful women leads who are teaching you ethics with their music. And that was Tara in Joy Drop. And now she's doing it again, as kind of a a leader of a feminicity. So it's great to have, that was one of the first things that we wanted with Rogers Hometown Hockey, was to ensure that there was equal representation on gender, and knowing that there are far more than just male, female. So yeah, she's a great canary.
Well, she's special, and so are you. And we appreciate your time. We certainly look forward to the festival this weekend and the broadcast of the Vancouver and Montreal game on Monday. Our dear Canadiens and the Vancouver Canucks are probably the two most struggling teams in the league, not just Canadian teams, Ron. So we're hoping for something positive out of that. But either way, you guys will be there, and we really look forward to it. And again, hometownhockey.com. You can, of course, get your free tickets, and it's going to be a good time.
Excellent, Andrew. Really appreciate it.
Well, thanks so much, Ron, and we really appreciate it. Thank you, viewers, for watching, and we'll see you guys again very soon.